Hello to every one of you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for the patience while we waited to start this event. It is our pleasure to welcome you to this virtual stakeholder workshop, which is one of the many events we are organizing leading up to the launch of the Accelerator Lab in Guinea-Bissau. So thank you very much for participating, and we hope you'll enjoy it as much as we did organizing this for all of you. So we're looking forward to exchanging ideas with you. I'll just share with you quickly before I give the floor to Tiak Egenhoff. I'll share with you the program for today's meeting, so you know what to expect from this event. I believe you can all see my screen now. So we have here the welcoming remarks. Then our resident representative, Tiak Egenhoff, will also give a brief introduction about the Accelerator Lab in Guinea-Bissau. You'll get a chance to see a documentary video that our team put together about the lab and what we intend to do in the country. And then our new and exciting team will present a bit about their work, what they aim to do, and also the frontier challenge that they'll work on for the next couple of years. And also we have the pleasure of having with us today our colleagues from the Accelerator Lab Angola, Daniela, Judite, and Alberto. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And then we will have an interactive session which will require you to use the Mural website. And for that, we would like to give you a tip, a suggestion. You might want to use Chrome or Mozilla to have better access to Mural. We have experienced some difficulties while using Explorer and or Edge. And then finally, we will proceed to the Q&A and the closing of the event. So for now, thank you so much. And I give the floor to our resident representative, Mr. Tiak Egenhoff. Tiak, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria Julia. Hi, everyone. You will bear with me today because my voice is kind of fading, but I'll do my best. Welcome. Welcome to this pre-event of the launch of the Accelerator Lab in Guinea-Bissau. I'm excited that we can have also a virtual session, so we can invite people from out of Bissau, also in accompanying us in this effort to really get UNDP into looking not only at itself but also at its surroundings in a different way. And how we're going to do that, that's sort of the interesting thread that will guide us today in this brief session. So let me first of all thank my team for putting this together, and especially you'll get to know them, the team of the Accelerator Lab that has onboarded not very long ago. So as I said, we're really excited to be able to launch the Accelerator Lab, because it really gives us a different set of eyes and ears on the ground. What we want to do is use totally different methods of approaching challenges. We want to be much more needs-based and listening to the concerns and the solutions that we will see on the ground. For that, our team, and not only the Accelerator Lab, will also do sort of on the ground safaris to understand what the challenges in the communities are and how to find out about those solutions and visualize those solutions that are already being crafted on the ground, right? So it is about a different approach to development, and we're trying to test out and use all the mechanisms of a much more human-centered approach in order to not only test but also iterate and go back to processes and and prototype and see if those solutions that we will come up with actually solve the problem, and then be able to scale them up. And that's the beauty of being sort of a startup unit within a larger organization. You might want to find your space in a larger organization like UNDP, and really fight for the freedom and the flexibility that you need as Accelerator Lab within our confines. But also we have the power to scale up those solutions that come out of that process. And maybe one last thing for all of you. This is not just one alone, standing alone facility in Guinea-Bissau. It is the Accelerator Lab initiative globally with our partners Germany and the Qatar Germany and Qatar. We have actually developed a whole network of accelerator labs throughout the world in 90 duty stations covering over 100 countries. So that allows us to look beyond the national borders, and of course also to understand certain patterns of challenges that communities, and especially affected communities and vulnerable communities experience around the globe. The solutions, of course, are going to be tailored to the local environment, but there are certainly questions around poverty, questions around inclusion, questions around efficiency gain, questions around the pressing development themes of our time that can be shared and can be not only start a conversation around the globe, but also can inform us of how other communities in Asia and Latin America, but also here in Africa, have dealt with similar problems. So we're going to be able to tap into the knowledge and the experience of other accelerator labs. And I'm happy to have Angola on today as well. So happy to also welcome our colleagues from Angola, who will share some of the experiences as they are already well advanced and probably a year or a little more into this experience. And it is also a process that is, of course, learning by doing, and we should be, failing often, but early on, and learn from our failures. Something that not always we have in mind when we implement our projects as development partners, right? So I think really the future of how we will work and the future of how we think and how we use our senses and how we question ourselves and how we develop new partnerships within the country, but also well beyond the country, that will be fueled by our Accelerator Lab. And I'm really, really humbled, and I'm also happy that all of you are here today and show that interest in this journey that really wants to extend ahead to all kinds of organizations within Guinea-Bissau, but also out there to accompany us and of course Guinea-Bissau on this path of development. So that's all from my side. I hope you will be part of our big community and ecosystem around the Accelerator Labs, and we want to do that in an open and in a constant way, so that we create communities around certain topics that can help build and design and co-create paths of development for Guinea-Bissau. So thank you so much. Kudos to the team. Thank you so much, Maria Julia. Here's, I see, of course, Anna, Isa, and Victor as the main team, the accelerator team, but I also see Isa too, and Aminata. I hope I don't forget anyone else, but thank you so much for making this possible. Over.
Thank you so much, Tiar. Gulfam is also with us today. So the second Aminata is Gulfam on the list. But thank you so much for your welcoming remarks. And now Aisatu will take us over to the documentary video on our lab. Take it away, Aisatu, please.
Laboratório de Aceleração, fazido para ser a rede mais grande de aprendizagem do mundo, para poder enfrentar desafios do século XXI. Na Guiné-Bissau, Guinta está a criar solução para ser problemas de dia a dia. Que novo laboratório de aceleração de PNUD não trabalha com inovadores guineenses para reforçar a solução local. Como é que não pode melhor enfrentar desafios complicados que estão mudando rápido? Como é que não pode outra solução que não funciona na nossa comunidade? Como é que não podia aprender mais rápido sobre o que está funciona que o que está funciona? Para valorizar a experiência local, o Laboratório de Aceleração está a aproveitar toda a experiência de todo lugar, especialmente aquilo de comunidade, que está enfrenta desafios social e ambiental. O Laboratório de Aceleração cria uma forma construtiva de trabalhar com a comunidade, especialmente que resolvedores de problema local, que normalmente está olhado, ao lado de outros especialistas mais formalmente reconhecidos para não juntar mão.
E tem a ideia de poder criar, para poder facilitar essa forma de transformar, não só dependendo de máquinas que batem em todo momento, máquina batem em todo momento. Então, eu penso que tem que ter necessidade para ter também que poder criar algumas inovações nessa área. Aquele sentido que leva a transformar, aliás, para criar essas máquinas, para poder ajudar na transformação no produto.
Yo, se olha me bem não fera ali, então me se senta na casa. Senta na casa é cabali nada. E que não resolve nem nada. Aquela que põe a mim tá bem fera, me se embocado que olha. E bom.
Hoje em dia nós temos um portal web onde eu posso fazer agendamento para fazer marcação de fazer teste. Marcação de teste de Covid, tem a possibilidade também de ter acesso ao resultado. Agora que o resultado do laboratório está disponível, o laboratório facilita o trabalho, introduzir no sistema, você recebeu notificação por SMS que não falou como o resultado de teste de Covid está disponível, você pode ir no portal para ter acesso.
Inovação e produto de necessidade. Respostas tudo está ali na Guiné-Bissau, mas não na ponta. Qualquer solução para não ir mais rápido.
Não, e assim, que é bem como, mas não vai poder com bolo, como a estrada está com bolo. Não é chapa, não sei, caro por ele.
A Guiné-Bissau não tem tudo, nada que faltar ali. Está na fábrica tijolo. Ninguém quer buscar nem outro mercadoria coisa fora.
Guineenses está a lidar com manga de problemas no dia a dia. Por exemplo, acesso à água potável, eletricidade, gestão de lixo e sistema de saúde frágil, com outros.
Guineenses não me soube vós, qualquer melhor maneira de não enfrentar os desafios do dia a dia.
De favor, conta-nos, qualquer boa ideia.
So thank you so much, Aissatou, for sharing the video with us. I would just like to ask participants, so if you can all turn on your camera, so we make this a bit more presential in a way, so we can all see each other. Just say hello.
Hi, everyone.
So thank you so much. I think it's really nice to see some familiar faces, some new faces here with us today. So thank you. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor to our new and exciting Accelerator Lab team in Guinea-Bissau, Ana, Isa, and Vito. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria Julia. And thank you, Chark, for your wonderful introduction. So my name is Isa, and I'm head of experimentation of the Accelerator Lab Guinea-Bissau. Anna, will you?
I'm Anna, the head of solutions mapping.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Victor Pereira, head of exploration.
So our team will now give a short presentation on the aims and objectives of the Accelerator Lab, and also introduce you to the Frontier Challenge that we are working on. So this workshop aims to onboard you as potential partners who can help us accelerate learning and development in Guinea-Bissau in an innovative way. We are also very interested in you and what you have to say. And therefore, we will have an interactive workshop in the end of this session. And this part is very important for us, as the outcome will serve as a basis for future projects. Okay, so first, Aissatou, can you go back one slide? Thank you. So we will start to thank our donors, German Corporation, Fund, and UNDP were partners for making this event possible and for making the Accelerator Labs possible. Next, please. There is a need to reimagine development for the 21st century, and we are facing a new set of social, economic, and environmental challenges. The challenges that we face today change and move faster than ever. And addressing these challenges doesn't just require new solutions. It also requires new strategies for understanding challenges as they unfold. It requires new approaches to identify solutions. And it requires addressing not just the problem that we have in front of us, but also the system that led to this problem. So with Accelerator Labs, UNDP is building the world's largest and fastest learning network on sustainable development challenges. So it started with 60 lab teams covering 78 countries and is now expanding to 90 labs over 100, spread around 114 countries. So the aim of the labs is to accelerate progress towards the sustainable development goals. Next, please. So what do we bring to the development sector? We are bringing these 90 labs. So we have this global learning network spread in different countries, but we also accelerate learning and create actionable intelligence, and we're testing solutions and we are prototyping. And by testing and prototyping, we can constantly evaluate, but we can also fail fast in order to learn what's actually working and what we can take further. And we also work closely with decision makers to strengthen capabilities and supporting them in experiments, exploration, and growing portfolios. And by this, we mean that designing and conducting experiments around portfolios of different solutions, rather than just focus on individual solutions, can enable us to learn faster, so we can learn in months what is working instead of in years. And we are also working internally here in UNDP in order to adapt change and expanding the way that the organization invests and thinks about development. And we're also constantly scanning the horizon for what is next, looking for new innovative ways of addressing challenges that we face. Next, please. So how does the lab look like when it's in action? A project cycle looks a bit different than we might be used to. It's a learning cycle, and it's divided into 4 different parts. So the first one is sense, and this part is about understanding what is emerging challenges and opportunities in the local context, looking at what is already going on and how people are addressing the challenges that we face. And explore is about better understanding the challenge that that we face, and also look for solutions and see how it's addressed from different angles. And then testing is about designing a portfolio of potential solutions to intervene at multiple points in the system and testing them until they work. And here we also use prototyping. And the last one is growing, and it's about handing over the portfolio of solutions and also advocating for policy change and spinning solutions off as private ventures. Thank you very much. I will now pass over to my colleague Anna that will continue the presentation.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Isa. So I'm just going to continue the presentation, and they'll go on to talk about the Frontier Challenge alongside my colleague Vitor. So when people ask who we are, I think the best way to explain who we are and what we do is through a kind of a simulation of how a cycle will go. So as the head of the solutions mapping, I have as a duty to work directly with the community and help them map solutions that already exist, and also see where their limitations they have in order to help them develop potential solutions for the future. Whilst this is done, we would pass on the limitations to the head of explorations, which is Vitor. And then Vitor, his work is mainly based on data science, so using data in order to quantify what we're doing and actually also say the reason as to why we've come up with the solution and why the solution correlates with the limitation that particular communities are facing. So once that data is collated, we would then move on to Isa, the head of experimentation, who would then in theory work with the community in order to develop a solution that would then potentially we could experiment to see what works and what doesn't work. But a good thing to understand about the Accelerator Lab in our roles is that they overlap constantly. And when it comes to experimentation particularly, it doesn't mean that one solution that we've decided that's the one that's going to be stagnant and is going to be there forever. It means that we try many things to see what works and what doesn't work, and also see how we can change it and make it sustainable. So even without us, these solutions can continue. So there's ongoing cycles. We're constantly interacting with communities, constantly exploring, constantly experimenting. It's an ongoing cycle involving all of us. Next slide, please. So what are we doing right now? Right now, we are doing just that. We're looking for local innovators, community leaders, local institutions in order to build a network. And with that network, we aim to map solutions that are already in Guinea-Bissau, that people have faced, that have found in order to deal with their everyday challenges. But we also aiming to spot where there are problems and also collaborate in order to develop solutions together. And these solutions will be strengthened and explored by prototyping and partnerships. Next, please. So why is our approach different? We say that our approach is different because the partners that we usually collaborate with, or we look to collaborate with, are those that usually fall outside of the UNDP radar. So we're looking at social enterprises that, for instance, look for economic ways to deal with everyday challenges in their community. So they have a certain level of expertise and knowledge that we wouldn't know. Community leaders that are trusted within the community and people can approach, these people that have the trust of the communities in which they live in. We have grassroots institutions, which are those that know what the problems are within the interests of maintaining these solutions, are within the interests of developing solutions that work in their local contexts. We have local innovators, people that have a little bit more of knowledge in particular areas, and they can develop innovations that can help to better their living. We also have informal sector workers, and these will be those people that help us with the data science, getting data to actually back up the solutions that we come up with, and regional organizations as to go beyond Bissau. So we don't want to just stay in Bissau, we want to go to the regions and see if there's expertise there, if there's solutions there that could be spread nationwide. And finally, government and decision makers, because this is also crucial for the implementation and to give longevity to the solutions that we come up with. Next, please. So now that we've talked a little bit about what the Accelerator Lab is, I think it's important to also state what the Accelerator Lab is not, just for clarification. The Accelerator Lab doesn't accelerate startups or particular technologies. So what we mean by this is that the Accelerator Lab does not focus only on one particular startup or one particular technology. We focus on a range of them. So we will not partner with one startup or one technology and just stick with that. We're constantly looking to build a portfolio of ideas and graphics in order to kind of set the scene for future partnerships. It's not just one stagnant partnership. Secondly, the Accelerator Lab is not an SDG accelerator. So this is to say that we do not focus on one particular sustainable development goal. We focus on all of those that fall under the frontier challenge that we've been presented, and not just any particular one. The Accelerator Lab isn't a technology lab. And when we say this, we mean to say that we go with any particular innovation. So any innovation that brings public value, that's the definition that we're going with. Anything that brings public value, we consider as an innovation. And we will take any service, product. It doesn't have to be technology, because a lot of the times people feel like they cannot approach us because they don't have a technological innovation. It doesn't just have to be technological. It can be any sort of innovation, so long as it adds public value. And finally, the Accelerator Lab isn't a think tank. This is to say that we do not have the same aims and objectives of a think tank in order to produce a report in the end, but rather we are building a portfolio of prototypes, graphics to show the solutions that we've done, our journey, what we've been able to map, what we've been able to come up with solutions, what's been sustainable, what's worked, what hasn't worked, as opposed to your traditional reports. Thank you. Next slide, please. So why are we having this workshop and why have we invited you? So the aim of this workshop is to forge a relationship with you all that are present today. And also share innovative ways in which you as attendees have approached development in your particular contexts, but also see ways in which you can cooperate and collaborate in the future in order to find ways to speed up development in Guinea-Bissau. This is very important to note because with the Accelerator Labs, we have the perspective that we don't have all the answers. The answers come from the communities, the answers come from a global scale, and we work with the network of other labs in order to come up with solutions that are innovative, that maybe don't work here, but they work there, and kind of see what works and what doesn't work and change constantly. So with you being here today, you might not be familiar with the context of Guinea-Bissau, might be in Europe, might be in America, but what we want is to see what in the area of development, what you've seen that's interesting, suggestions that we could particularly change into the context of Guinea-Bissau and make it work, following that same mindset that we don't have all the answers, we are a collective. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about the Frontier Challenge. We want to introduce you to Frontier Challenge because this is the key information that you're going to need for when we proceed to the workshop interactive section of this workshop. So next slide, please. So what is the Frontier Challenge? This term isn't a term that we use on the everyday, but for the country office, so the headquarters has given us a Frontier Challenge, and the Frontier Challenge is they've told us that we need to develop something that we believe is a challenge that is in our country office, so in Guinea-Bissau. So this Frontier Challenge was developed in order to tackle or to narrow down the main objective of the Accelerator Lab in Guinea-Bissau. And we will focus all our efforts in order to develop solutions and work with the communities, all in the aims of achieving the resolution of this challenge. Next slide, please. So the challenge is lack of basic and quality public services. That is our challenge. Next slide. So what do we mean when we say public service? So when we say public services, we mean any services provided by public authorities in order to meet the needs of the society even though we know that this can also be outsourced to private organizations. And a few of the services that we have identified, it's not limited to the only ones that are here, but we have health, we have energy, basic sanitation, education, transport, infrastructure, and waste management. So these are a few of the ones that we've identified that fall under the public services. We realize that there is a response to public services in Guinea-Bissau, but the frontier challenge is access to basic quality public services. I think quality is the highlight. Next slide, please. So we've identified also what are the probable causes for this challenge. So what was made Guinea-Bissau reach a point where they're unable to provide these basic quality services, public services. So we've come up with some of the causes are due to the endemic fragility of the state. It has led to unstable political and government systems that inevitably leads to the inability of the state to provide these basic services due to the unmonitoring of the public administration and lack of infrastructure that is had in the country, leading to a vicious cycle of the state's inability to provide these needs of the population. Next slide, please. So who are the people that are most affected by or pay the price of this fragility? In general, everyone is affected in one way or another, no matter what class, what age group, whatever you are falling, all of the population is generally affected by this, but to different extents. But we have urban communities, rural communities, but mainly women and children are the ones that suffer the most and pay the highest price due to this fragility of the state. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to pass over to my colleague Vitor, and Vitor is going to give us some of the evidence to support why this is such a challenge that needs to be dealt with in Guinea-Bissau. Thank you, and over to Vitor.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Good afternoon again. I'm Vitor Pereira, Head of Exploration. I will show the evidence why this is an important challenge for Guinea-Bissau. No country can develop without a functional public service. In Guinea-Bissau, it is common to hear complaints about the care in hospital, in other service public, long line waiting, excess of bureaucracy, poor quality of service in general. The country does not have functional civil registration. I will talk about some indicators related to the health. We start with the health sector. My colleague mentioned that women and children, they are most suffering with our poor services. We can see this indicator is coming from mix. We are lucky. It's difficult to have data on time and available in Guinea-Bissau. But this year, we are lucky because we have mix. Mix is multiple indicator cluster survey. It was published this year. We have many indicators and many information about the country. We choose some of them to Accelerator Lab to start the work. We can see maternal mortality rate in Guinea-Bissau is not 900 per 100,000 live birth. It's a very high indicator. If you compare with Cape Verde, is 60 per 100,000. You can see this is very, very bad for the country. Other indicator, we can see the probability of dying between birth and 50 years is 51 per 1,000 live births. All these things show this that our health sector doesn't work very well. If you don't have good quality of health service as early stage of life, you can expect to have a good result in the future. Other indicator we can explore is related to electricity and drinking water. 36% of population have access to electricity. 67 of the population have access to drink water. About education, literacy, we can see only half percent of young population aged between 15 and 24 years can read a short sentence. This is show us the future of the country in terms of education. We have a lot of challenge. Now we will explore computer use and mobile phone. About computer use, only 6% or 5% of women use the computer, and about 16% of men, they use a computer. We have some gender gap in this indicator, and all of them, they are very low. Our good expectation is about use of mobile phone. You can see the last indicator is we can see is 90% of active population, they use a mobile phone. This is a good result for the country, and then we will see in the next slide, and we start to explore these advantages. We can see in this graphic the increase of number of users of mobile money. Guinea-Bissau start with these two companies, telecommunication company. They introduced the mobile money, and the population is already start to use massively. And we can see from this data from Authority for Telecommunication, they share with us. We start a partnership with the telecommunication sector because Accelerator Lab is aimed to explore new source of data, and telecommunication data, they have many data, and we want to explore it in the future. You can see that 80% of population already start to use this service, mobile money. And then we have 3 companies, they take advantage of this. Our company of electricity and water, they have a partnership with 2 companies, telecommunication company, Orange and MTN. They create this service. You can pay your bills related to electricity or water. You pay your bill using this service, mobile money. It's very good. It starts working very well. And then it's good opportunity to other entity or other service use these advantages. Other thing in the actual context, in prevention against COVID, this is very good because people don't need to go to the long line to pay their bill. They can use mobile phone. This is good thing, and they can stay at home. Yes, we will continue to work with this telecommunication company to have a real-time data, to have type in the other thing related to economic data. They have everything. This is just the beginning because we are in the launch, but in the future we will jump on this and explore this mobile phone data. For now is all. Thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you so much, Victor, for the presentation. Also, thank you to Anna and to Isa for sharing this information on the lab here in Guinea-Bissau. We have already received some questions while our colleagues were presenting, so I'll respect the order that we received. We'll take the 3 questions now. We saw that Jean-Louis Sanka raised his hand while colleagues were speaking. I don't know, Jean-Louis, if you'd like to speak or write your question on the chat. In any case, Aissatou will unmute you. You can go ahead and ask your question, Jean-Louis. You just need to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I don't have a particular question.
Okay.
All is okay for me.
Okay,
and
no.
I would like to thank you for the invitation.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for being here with us. So just to follow up on our list of questions, our colleague Eunice posted, I think, a couple of questions. So Eunice, I'll also open the mic to you so you can voice your questions to the team. Thank you.
Hi, Maria Julia. Sorry, I think the unmuting just took effect. So my first question was regarding the way the team is measuring the impact of the work on the local communities. You have mentioned that you are using data to identify and perhaps target specific communities, but do you produce any data to try and see the effect of your work on of these initiatives on the communities themselves? My second question was with regards to do you have different stats for mobile phones versus smartphones, which could be useful to identify for digital services per se, whether a USSD service is better, is going to reach, have more impact on the community than a software, for example, say on a smartphone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eunice. I'll just also collect the question from Nadia. Nadia, if you would like to also say your question, we'll unmute you. Go ahead, please, Nadia.
Hi. So my question was mainly perhaps about the exploration work and the experimentation, which will be directed when it comes to the frontier challenge identified, which is working on quality basic services. I was just wondering if there were any specific sectors or services that the exploration and experimentation part was planned for. I understand that health is an important sector, that there were other basic services, just electricity and water. But is there is there a plan to focus on specific sectors at the beginning, or is the choice not made yet?
Thank you so much, Nadia. So just for the order, Anna will answer your question, Eunice, and then Vito will address yours, Nadia. So Anna, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Maria Julia, and thank you, Eunice and Nadia, for the question. So I'll answer Eunice first and foremost. I think what's important to know is that we have started the Accelerator Lab, so we started in September. So we hope that we'll be able to make the impact, because this is the whole point. We don't want to go out there and just create solutions and to things that there is no data to back up what are we doing, or any data to back up that there's actually an issue that is happening that we're dealing with. So we will have a cycle, which we haven't begun yet, but the cycle will map what is the data to support the evidence to suggest that, you know, there's a particular issue that we're dealing with. And then we will also want to measure what is the impact after we've created a solution. And also we will do a trial and error. This is what I was saying in regarding to ESA's position in a case that if we map a solution, or if we develop a solution together with the community, it doesn't work, we are willing to go back and change that. We're willing to make tweaks to see what works and what doesn't work, because we want it to be sustainable. So really and truly, we cannot even proceed with, or say we completed a cycle unless we've already tested to see if these solutions work or not, because this is the whole point of the Accelerator Lab. Regarding your second question, it's a very good and valid question because there's a high usage of mobile phones. But what is important to also know that the source says is that, you know, a lot of these people that have high mobile usage of phones, they also might just have a SIM card, which they lend someone else's phone and use it in. And a lot of these phones are not smartphones. A lot of these phones are not smartphones. So in terms of software, it wouldn't even be possible for them to use it, but rather through messages. So a lot of the things, for instance, with the COVID, both the service providers that we have in Guinea-Bissau, what they've done is, in order to spread the message on prevention of COVID and spreading COVID, is they have a little message before you make any phone call. There's a message that is that goes on the phone and gives people advice on COVID and protecting yourself and how to do this. So it's a method that is used a lot in the country, but not through software. It's just not possible because due to the living standard and GDP per capita, it's just not possible to have the smartphones that we would see in other countries. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nadia, for your question. Related to our frontier challenges is sound open. We public services include health sector, education, so on, so on. But we launch our first contact, our first workshop next Wednesday with our potential partners. And then during the workshop, we realized that our partners, they are pending to the health sector due to the actual situation about COVID pandemic. And then some of them, they presented already some solution or something they thinking about related to mortality, related to maternal health. I think we will work in the health sector also for natural reasons, but we are open to jump in another sector. But of course, health sector we will work on it. But we are only in the beginning. We launch on the next Wednesday. We don't have already defined what exactly we're going to do. We have idea. Health sector will be one of the areas we Accelerator Lab will work on it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much to Vitor and to Ana. You hear an echo, and that's because we are in the same room, so it's not a technical issue. But I see that we have two questions from Mariana and from Aminata, but I see that we have two Aminatas, so one of you is Gulfam. And just to give you an explanation, if you can please write your message on the chat, we'll have later on a Q&A session, so we don't go over time at this moment. And we will also like to give the opportunity to our colleagues from Angola to share their experience with us. So we see that you raise your hands, and if you can just share your questions on the chat, and we'll address them at the
I'm not sure who's presenting, but we cannot hear. Have you started? We can't hear any sound. Yeah, Daniela, thank you. We hear you now, Daniela.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for that. Thank you, first of all, Guinea-Bissau, for inviting us. We are very happy to be a part of the beginning of the journey of our colleagues from Guinea-Bissau, and we are very close to them for many reasons. So I hope we are also able to partner in the future. So I was saying that we are at Lab Angola. I'm Daniela Lima, and we are working in the ACT Lab here for almost a year now. So I'll share a bit of our experience together with my two colleagues. Our agenda for today is to talk a bit about what we have been up to this year. So what's going on with ACT Lab Angola. Sorry, technical issues. Okay, yes. So who we are a team of 3, same as Guinea-Bissau. And as you can see, it's me, Alberto, and Judith, and they will be able to speak to you as well. So this year we had a lot of challenges that we considered in our work. We started working with waste management, circular economy, and recycling. We worked as well to foster the innovation ecosystem. We supported a lot of the efforts from our country office in the fight against COVID-19. We explored urban markets, and that's something that is still going in a system thinking approach. And we have also on the way started trying to implement or to drive innovation inside the UNDP Angola country office. So throughout this year, we were able to map solutions, do meetings with different and unusual actors as well, create portfolios of experiments, and write blog posts. So some of the things that we used throughout the year were solutions mapping, sense making, collective intelligence, system thinking, experimentation, working with unusual partners, and working out loud. So sharing what we are doing is very, very important. Now I'll pass over to my colleague Alberto, which will talk about solutions mapping. Alberto?
Yes, thank you, Daniela. Good afternoon, everyone. Team Guinea-Bissau, welcome to the network. Say that to be a solutions mapper in the UNDP Accelerator Lab network is to be part of a community that does not stop to look for new approaches and tools to help organizations and communities they work with to provide answers to concrete problems they face. This requires the solution mapper to immerse into the communities, develop and sustain positive relationships with a range of citizen groups to identify the needs, issues, and opportunities by looking for solutions developed by themselves. Solutions are often found where problems are, and because local knowledge is central to our work, we abide by the principle that those closest to the problem are the ones we need to engage with more closely to find solutions, and these include indigenous people with indigenous knowledge, local entrepreneurs, universities, local tech companies, just to mention a few. To this day, we have already mapped more than 30 solutions, despite the problem with COVID-19. We have already met with more than 60, or we have mapped and met with more than 60 partners, and we are still carrying on. Unfortunately, at the beginning of this year, as you know, everywhere else in the world, we were confronted with COVID-19 and its limitations. So we had to readapt our activities. And if mapping solutions meant that the mapper had to go out to the communities and engage with the communities, talk to them, find out what is going on in the field, carry out collective intelligence, and familiarize, the lab with what is going on in the field. The restriction just made that almost impossible. So with that, the lab came up with a range of alternative solutions, which we call remote strategy to map solution, which consists on virtual engagement with entrepreneurs, identify and link with digital inventors to explore their digital abilities and resourcefulness to help fight COVID-19, maintain and strengthen ties with public and private institutions by holding virtual meetings. We also resorted to be connected, more connected to news and social media outlets like let's talk about TV, radio, and internet. So I will pass over to my colleague, Judith. Thank you very much. Judith?
Thank you very much, Alberto, and I hope everyone can hear me. I'm very happy to be part of this event with Guinea-Bissau. And as Alberto said, welcome to the network. So let me just get the exploration slide on. Yes, exploration, staying connected and building bridges. So basically, it has been said that exploration already at the beginning is a part that use data a lot in data-driven approach for strategic decision. So we want to make sure that's how we work in terms of addressing all the frontier challenge that we decide to take on board with the network. But not only that, and if I can ask to move to the next slide, please. Yes, not only that, this is a network, or this is a part of the Accelerator Lab, of the unit that works a lot with unusual actors, as Daniela said, unusual suspect. We talk a lot, we engage with the different stakeholders, different partners. So as you can see on the screen, this is some of the meetings we managed to have just before the COVID pandemic, and that was outside Luanda, the capital here in Angola. And that was very important to us because the solution that we are looking for to address the most complex challenge here in the country, we don't hope them to just come from one single place. We are looking from knowledge, local knowledge from everywhere. So we engage, we talk, and then we register this information. So we are a working out loud lab. So the exploration is always sharing the findings with the network, with the partners. So all the work we do, we talk, we register, we make available for everyone. So that's just one of the things we did this year. We engaged with different, this is a group at the bottom. That was a group of people, all the local innovators at the Willa in southern Angola. So here is also one of the website, the things I use to stay connected. So as an explorer, I kind of need to have my radar on, always be checking on new trends, what people are talking about, what is emerging. So being connected, it's kind of like a must. So there are multiple channels that is used, and we have the Teams network from the Accelerator Lab, which is amazing. We engage. It's indeed a knowledge network. It doesn't matter if we're 90 countries, we feel like we're just one. We feel like we're very close. We have different WhatsApp groups for the explorers, and I think Vitor, he has now joined the group. So we have the WhatsApp group where we can discuss and share information and help each other out. And also we have the Luanda Startup. This is more something that I use to see what the innovators here in Angola are talking about, what they're discussing, what they think maybe about the new policies that came out. So this is where I kind of like check, probe what is going on in the country. And apart from the other website, Ciência AO is from our main partner here, one of our main partners, which is the Minister of Higher Education and Innovation, which we just signed an MOU this year in the middle of pandemic, because we hope to enable an environment for innovation, for the innovation ecosystem. We hope that there is a legislation to support the innovators, to support the solution that happen, and innovation, as it was already said also at the beginning, It hasn't, Anna said, it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be technology based. It just needs to be something that actually add value to a problem. So this is what innovation is all about, and this is what we're looking for. And if we can now go to the last slide, please. So as I already mentioned, we document everything. When I say document, we register, but actually we make it open and available by writing blogs. So throughout this whole period, we have already 11 blogs written, and some of them they're three-party ones. So, and these blogs that you can see on the screen, they were all from this pandemic period. This is some of the insights we generated. And also, as I said, engaging with the local innovation ecosystem, we managed to have our very first virtual session. The whole network, the Accelerator Lab network, tends to be very virtual, but the unit here in Angola was never very virtual until the pandemic. So we had to adapt like we are very adaptive, so we had to adapt. And now we managed to have a meeting. Can we just go back, please, to the last one? Sorry, the previous one. So we had this meeting that we managed to provide insight, collective intelligence. We gathered everyone that could help us and see how we can better address COVID in the country. What is already going on to address COVID in the country? Who are these people? Who can influence the change? Who is the most affected? And this then at the end we had the collective intelligence COVID response blog. Also, we managed to say what actually is the youth of Angola doing, and also the work of the academia here in Angola, because the academia, the scientific stakeholders, they have been doing a lot of work for COVID response, and we managed to go there underneath and document all of this. Next one, please. And finally, just a summary. So exploring is basically being emerged. We've been emerged a lot on the innovation ecosystem. We managed to be kind of a group that is mediating the conversation between the government and the local innovation ecosystem, the innovators, the startups. We're there always looking for trends and data. And most importantly, also, we are building bridges, and we are using collective intelligence. We are using local knowledge from everywhere. Thank you very much. And I'd like to pass on to Daniela. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. So moving on to experimentation. So experimentation has a lot of, I would say, components, but we will talk about two of them that we explored this year, and those were understanding systems and system thinking, as well as creating portfolios and trying to dive this idea of a portfolio of experiments instead of single solutions. So basically, we had the opportunity to explore the challenge of waste management, and in order to do that as a team, we created a lot of data that is connected to waste management. So we mapped the waste management value chain, and we started dealing with waste management as a system, and trying to explore it in many components, as I mentioned. So in the end, we ended up creating a portfolio of experiments to address solid waste management in Luanda, which is the capital city where we are based at. And a portfolio of experiments is something that has a lot of different experiments, a lot of interventions that dialogue with each other in order to create an integrated impact instead of an individual solution. So we had the opportunity to create the waste management portfolio, and then we also were able to dive into this idea of understanding systems around the markets, so urban markets. And in this case, we are now ongoing a program that is called Next Gen Cities Africa. And together with the Zimbabwe team, our colleagues, we are the two teams that are navigating the program with support from UNDP Innovation Team, as well as Dark Matters Labs. And we are understanding how markets work. So what is the system in markets? What's involved in there? What are the parts and the different variables? So as we did in waste management, we had to dive deep into the issues, the challenges, as well as the opportunities. And we are now starting to design our portfolio of experiments for urban markets in Angola. This is a very interesting work that we are now almost at the end of the portfolio design phase, and we are quite excited to use the year that comes ahead to implement some of the experiments that we will be able to create. And to sum up, and so that we can end, so system thinking and designing portfolios are two activities that are involved in experimentation, and it's about navigating the challenges and connecting the dots to arrive at multiple interconnected interventions, and together they will impact the change that we want to achieve in that specific subject. So overall, I would say that 2020 was a year of many challenges. As you heard from my colleagues, COVID was a great challenge, especially for labs that work on the ground and are usually very present with the community. So we had to come up with different ways, and we had to adapt to talk to people, to be with people, and to map solutions remotely, as well as also adapting on going more deep into systems thinking and creating portfolios and not creating so many experiments on the ground. So as an accelerator lab, this is quite important, adaptability. So I think this year was a great one to challenge us in that regard. So we'll keep it here. And thanks a lot again for Guinea-Bissau and for everyone for inviting us.
Thank you so much to Daniela, to Judith, and to Alberto. It was a great presentation, and also thank you so much for all the cooperation during these past few months, this past 2020. It's been great working with you. So thank you so much from our side. And again, to all of the participants, we had a bit of a technical issue, and I'm sure that a Zoom meeting is not a Zoom meeting without technical issues in 2020. So thank you for understanding. And we would like to ask you to continue posting questions on the chat, as we will now move to the interactive session of our workshop so that we don't go over time too much. So now it's over to Isa to guide you through the mural process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria Julia, and thank you, Alberto, Judith, and Daniela, for sharing your experience with us. It was very interesting. So as Maria Julia said, now we have come to the practical and interactive part, the workshop, and we are very humble and happy to have you all here today. We are a diverse group with people from different sectors, and this is exactly the dynamic that we are looking for. And we depend on your contributions, and also the connections that being made here today will serve as a basis for our future projects. So now I will, soon I will share the link to Mural, which is a virtual tool, application tool that we will collaborate on. But I will just show you quickly how it works first. Yeah, I will share my screen. So nothing. Okay, sorry, I was muted. So I hope you can all see my screen now. So I will just quickly walk you through how Mural works. So we will soon share the link, and you can just copy it and paste it in your browser, and you will be able to enter to this worksheet. And the first activity today is named Building a Radar. And here we want you to write down existing and innovative ideas that you might have seen in the development sector or in the world. But you can also write an innovative way or idea that you think can have an impact in the future of the development. And if you can focus on the region of Africa, would be of our interest. But yes, we have to the left a menu. If you can see my mouse. So I would just click on the top one, the square, and then you'll have these options of different sticky notes with different colors. And you can just click on one and it will appear on the working sheets. But you can also hold and drag it and then drop it where you want it. And when it's when you have dropped it in the radar, you can double click and you'll be able to write on the post-it notes. So as I was saying, we're looking for innovative ideas that you've seen in the development sector or future ideas of that might be having positive impacts in the future. So I will make an example. I will write poo bag. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. Yes, but let me see. But it's a personal single-use bag, which is working as a toilet, and you can seal it. And when you're done with it, it's 100% biodegradable, and it can also become a fertilizer. So it can become of use. So I will place that in the health sector. So you can see for your ideas the sectors you think will fit the most, or if there's any sector that we have forgotten, you can also create, like, write a new one. So now we will share the link. I hope this was clear. If not, you can just ask and we will guide you. So we will share the link in the chat. So for this exercise, we have 10 minutes. So write as many ideas as you can come up with and have fun. Then we will have a discussion.
So I can see some contributions. Just if you need any guidance, just notice how there is a bag that turns into a chair. For girls, this is an idea that I saw from a colleague in Uganda. He used to work in an area which the girls couldn't go to school because they just didn't have access to, you have to take a bag, you have to have a chair and also a table. So this bag was really innovative for the particular context because the bag would turn into a chair, a seat, but also had a board which they could write in. So this was an innovation, and I put it under education. So you could also put ideas that don't exist yet. So it can be something that for the future, but it could also be something that already exists. Feel free to put any ideas, and we will be able to then have a short discussion and move them on to the next diagram. These will be very useful for us in order to recycle them or edit them so they could fit into Guinea-Bissau's context too. Well, let's try and put some music whilst you guys do this. Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for contributing. We're looking at so many ideas. I love this. So what we're going to do now is looking at the ideas that we've had. So let me share my screen. 1 second. So the next part of the activity that we have, hopefully you can all see my screen, is we have a little impact reflection signals radar. And what we have here in this radar, what we have is we will map these ideas that we've entered here. But just before we do that, we're going to just exemplify, because we have the high impact over here and the low impact here, low interest here, high interest here. So when we say high impact but low interest, is anything that can be big impacts in the country, but the government or UNDP is not on board. Something that's of high interest but low impact, there is interest from the government or UNDP, but the impact on development is limited. And then we have the extremes up here, can have big impacts in the country and the government or the UNDP are interested. And the low interest and low impact is forget about it, it's not important. So based on these ideas that you've plotted here on the radar, I'm just going to have a look at the ones that you believe are interesting, and then you drag it and place it on the correct area on the next square. But before we move on to that, let's perhaps raise a discussion on a couple of these, just conscious of time, a couple of these really interesting sticky notes that have been put. Perhaps the person that wrote the Manhood Circles dialogue could put their hand up, and Isatu can unmute them and you can tell us a little bit more why you chose this. So
Hi,
go ahead, Mariana.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so the Manhood Circles dialogue is based on, I'm Brazilian, by the way. I'm from the Impact Hub. And I put this one specifically to address gender gaps, especially the relationship between genders, especially during teenage years and we were still young adults, based on experience that I've seen in favelas in Rio and also in different countries in Africa, especially South Africa, where I also did an interesting project around that. So the Manhood Circles are usually safe spaces for young men to come together and really share what it means to be a man and how that influences and impacts their relationship in life, and then how that also impacts the gender gaps that we face as women in society. So it's usually a very simple initiative to take on, and there are many open source resources available already by different organizations that could be used to create something like this.
Amazing, that's super interesting. So perhaps you could collect your sticky notes and just exemplify where you think on the square would go in terms of its impact and its necessity, interest, please.
Okay, let's do that. Well, I cannot say if the government or the NDP is interested, but I definitely think this can have long-term high impact, but it is a long-term thing, right? It's a generational change that needs to happen. Where would you guys place this? I don't know. Would you say NDP is interested?
Yeah, that's fine. I think we're not saying that that you should know for sure, but as in they should be interested, or the government should be interested, you know, based on what you think and how impactful you think this sticky note will go. We'll thank you for that, Mariana. We'll choose another one now. Over to Isa.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. I'm curious about the one in the environmental area called Plastic Bank, Points for Plastic Reception for Recycling. So the person that wrote this post-it, if you can please raise your hand, and Aisatu will unmute you so you can explain a bit more.
Actually, I don't need to raise my hand. It was me, Daniela. So my contribution to your board. And I wrote this based on examples that I've seen. I'm not sure on the countries, but kind of kiosks and small container spaces where you would go and sell your plastic waste, and then it's obviously received in types of plastic, differentiated. And then that plastic is then recycled either by small people that recycle, small initiatives like small office shops that do that, or it can be also sold to a more industrial recycling facility if there is one. And there are examples that are also connecting that with blockchain technology as well. So yes, I think it's an interesting way of looking at plastic, but with a financial incentive, which usually drives more the behavior from people to collect. So they receive something for what they give. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela. And then there's another one, biodegradable seaweed bags. Who wrote that one? The person that wrote biodegradable seaweed bags in the environmental area. Environmental area.
It's me. Yes, I have been on innovative, the fact that they are using seaweed to make these is a biodegradable bags, and yeah, I found that that innovation
Amazing. Thank you so much. I can see that everyone believes that what they posted is both high impact and high interest. So we're definitely on the right path. So I think perhaps we can have a look at a few of these and just get some people to talk about why they've decided this is both high interest and high impact. The person who wrote Unified Digital Backbone for eGov. If you raise your hand, Aissatou can unmute you and you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, hi. Yeah, I think a unified backbone for government services is one of the big ticket items. It's the cornerstone of a digital economy, and it would be interesting for the country to have something. It's not easy, of course, because even more developed countries are not able to implement it without obvious challenges. But I think it could be interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eunice. Perhaps the person who wrote Skilling Micro Entrepreneurs, especially women-owned. Raise your hand so Aissatou can unmute you. No one has raised their hand. We can move on to the next, maybe. Mobile health solution as an extension of hospitals. Who wrote this one? Can raise your hand. No. Perhaps in that case, we can perhaps move to the Q&A. And if anyone has moved their post-it note, they can also make a comment on that as well as their question. We're very conscious of time. So feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to ask any questions about the workshop or regarding the presentations. We will also drop our email address on the chat in case you have to go and have any questions, and we will definitely follow up. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Anna. Just to complement, we had received one question before we started our interactive session from Mariana. And Mariana, if you would like to say the two questions that you posed for us on the chat regarding the solutions and the support organizations in Guinea-Bissau, Aissatou will unmute you and you'll be able to share your questions with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Julia. Sometimes we don't like to separate our compound names. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Call me Maju, it's easier.
Good. So I had two questions. One is about the format of the solutions that you usually see coming out of the labs. If they are usually services that intend to provide for free for the public, or if they're more towards business-led solutions, so probably enterprises that can come out of the community. So in those cases, like how do you usually support those solutions with funding? If it's a direct funding from the UNDP lab that you put into those solutions, or if they become business-led solutions, how do you support those to advance? And then my second question is, how do you see the lab working with existing support organizations in Guinea-Bissau to foster those solutions, to support them forward, or even just to identify the challenges? Thank you.
Sorry, Mariana, could you repeat the first question again, please?
Yes, sure. So considering the solutions that you envision coming out of the labs, I understand those are public services type of solutions, right? I was trying to understand more, what are the formats that you see that are usually services that you can then provide for free to the community, and how those will be funded, or if you see more coming as business-led solutions. Therefore, you'd have people from the community coming up with business solutions that would address a public interest or need. And if in those cases, how do you expect to support those solutions in terms of funding or even skills for those coming up from the communities with the solutions? If that makes sense. Maybe my question doesn't have anything to do with all this, but I'm just curious to understand how you make the link between the solutions that you come up in the labs and the sustainability of those, and how do you envision them going forward?
Amazing. Thank you, Mariana. Sorry, I had to repeat, and also I was speaking and wasn't unmuted. So the Accelerator Lab does not fund these startups or businesses, but what we do is we help to facilitate and upscale particular solutions that bring a value to the community. So this is to say, if there's a good idea or solution that brings value to a community in Guinea-Bissau, we help to create partnerships so that these can be funded by potential donors. So we, as the ACT Lab, we do not fund them, but we would partner with them to help them upscale or potentially help them develop the idea that they have, but we don't provide the sponsorship per se.
Okay, cool.
And your second question?
It was about the relationship between the lab and the other existing organizations in Bissau that are trying to support also solutions such as the ones you gave as example as well.
So right now, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, did you not finish?
No, how do you expect to partner with existing stakeholders in the ecosystem?
Yeah, so that's at the stage that we're in right now. We are doing search and horizon and also doing the solution mapping to see what exists, what doesn't exist, and create that portfolio of things that are already happening. So for instance, we're currently trying to work very closely with the National Institute or Association of Innovation and Inventors of Guinea-Bissau in order to kind of do a competition in which we are looking for innovators that solve problems today, every day. And there is a cash prize for that. But also the cash prize is an incentive, but also as a way for us as the ACT Lab to build a bridge between us and the community and ways in which we can partner in the future, but also seeing which ways people are approaching the problem, the people on the ground are approaching the problem. And this is going to be countrywide, so pushing away from Bissau as well. So we hope that within that journey, we are able to see other solutions that are outside of Bissau and help to create these partnerships with the Accelerator Lab.
Thank you so much, Anna. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much, Mariana. We also have one other question, actually from our colleague Gulfam. So please, Gulfam, you are now unmuted and you can go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Maria. I was just thinking about the process that was adopted for identification of the frontier challenge. So maybe it would be good for the for other colleagues to know what was the process that helped us finalize the frontier challenge. And secondly, I also want the ACT Lab team to explain a bit that what in fact they plan to deliver to the community, because as far as I understand, through different local solutions and mapping and partnerships, we are getting a lot from the communities, but what in fact are we planning to deliver to the community? So these are the two areas where I want to know from the ACT Lab team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gulfam. I can answer the first question. How was the Frontier Challenge identified? So it actually started before we started our work, me, Anna, and Victor. So a couple of months earlier, an internal UNDP team consisting of colleagues from different departments. So this was a working group that we still work very close with. We have weekly meetings together. So they were looking at the challenges and the problems that the country was facing. But then also an external consultant was hired, and I think it was a 2 days workshop here at the office, where they continued to discuss the different challenges in Guinea-Bissau. And after that workshop, 2 frontier challenges were identified. And after that, there were also a feedback session with the headquarters in New York, where I know that the discussion was about making the challenge as broad as possible. And this lies in the nature of the ACLAB, how we work, because we cannot come with ready-made answers or solutions. But this is something that we will identify together with the communities and together with the people that lives closest to the problem. So I hope that answered your question. And then the second question, do you mind repeating?
Well, the second question was regarding the planned delivery to the communities, because we are getting so much from the community in terms of existing innovative solutions. We are, of course, mapping those solutions. So what, in fact, we want to deliver in return to the community?
Thank you for that. So one thing that we will give is support in testing and improving the already existing solutions, but also looking for how we can connect those with partners or other initiatives nationally or internationally that maybe work in the same line. We're also working close with NanoMo, which is an internal project from UNDP. So that's already like a mapping system of Guinea-Bissau local innovators. So for example, now they are creating a virtual map. So everyone that visits their webpage can click on different solutions from different regions, and like that you can also connect with other people that might be valuable for what you are doing. Yes, I don't know if Anna or Victor wants to add anything to that. Victor wants to add.
Thank you, Gulfan, for the question. I want to add something related to the community. Focus on the data collection. Normally, we collect data from community, and we work on this, and you never give back to them. We learn some concept about the data empowerment. So when we get information from the community, it's good approach to give back this information to allow them to use the information for the development internally. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me now? I think you can, yes. So once again, thank you so much for participating, for posing your questions to our new onboarded ACLAB team here in Guinea-Bissau. It's been a pleasure sharing the afternoon with all of you. And if you have questions, we have put here on the chat box the email if you want to contact Isa, Vitor, or Anna. And thank you so much. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you to Maria for the message now. It's been a pleasure. And to Fernando. So actually to all of you, I won't be able to name you all, but thank you to everyone who has participated. Thank you so much to our team, to Isa, Ana, Vitor, to Arisatu, to Aminata, to Gulfam, and to all of the UNDP colleagues who have contributed to making the ACLAB here in the country possible. So enjoy your weekend, be safe and enjoy. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Pero desliga.
Vitor, te dice siempre.
Filho de quê? É para ficar.